Back here on SportsLine, I want to get back to Gordon's question before I coughed all over myself. By the way, phone line's open, 737-7767, the number. Yeah, Logan Woodside's still the backup with the Titans. But to his other point of the concern, and I get exactly what he was saying, it was not a good second half, especially from a Titans defense that has really carried them in the second half of the season. They lost their edge in that game. When they scored just before halftime to go up 21-0, it was great to have a 21-0 lead, but I even kind of wondered when I saw it, do you start celebrating at that point? Because it really did. When Nick Westbrook-Ikhine caught that touchdown from Ryan Tannehill to go up 3 scores, it really felt like they won the number 1 seed right there. But there was still 30 minutes left to play. And I think they came out in the second half sort of like they celebrated all the way through the locker room, where the Texans came out and said, we got 30 minutes left in the season, let's go play hard. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you are sitting there at 11-5 and your opponent's sitting there at 4-12. If they play hard and you don't in the NFL, you're in trouble. And I think that did happen a little bit in that game. Now, here's the deal. That won't happen in the postseason. Nobody, I don't think in the NFL, but certainly not this Titans team, is going to let off the brakes or let off the gas in the postseason. They're just not going to do it. It's a 60-minute game to get to next week for survival, to try to ultimately win a championship. So I don't think you have to worry about the type of performance you saw in the second half from the Titans on Sunday, because they're just not going to be in that situation. I mean, one, they're probably not going to be up 21-0 at the half on anybody because the teams are too good in the postseason. But two, you understand that you got to play it out to 60 minutes, and the teams are good enough to come back and beat you. And if you screw up or you don't play well, you're done. It's over. You're golfing on Monday. So that's made me feel better about what I saw in the second half, but I'm also going to try and spin it a little bit in a positive sense. I think there's actually some good that can come out of this, and we'll show it later in Bullock's breakdown when we get to what Keith Bullock did for us on Sunday night on the Electric Power Company Sunday Sports Central. But the Titans defense has been so good down the stretch. They'd given up less than 10 points per game in their last 4 games going into Sunday, and then they pitched a shutout in the first half. They were dominant in that. You do wonder if you start to get a little too much swagger, or you start to have a little bit too much of a puffy chest about the job that you're doing. And they've got a reason to be prideful. They have a reason to be full of swagger off the season that they put out there defensively. But you can't overlook the small details. And I think in the second half Sunday, some of the small details got overlooked. And then you had a couple of those injuries come in. And the backups didn't do quite as good of a job as they've done at other points throughout the course of the year. And all of a sudden, the Texans started moving the ball. And then they get confident. And then they move the ball some more, and the confidence grows and grows and grows. And all of a sudden, you're in a football game. I think that moment, and I think some of the specific routes, dealing with a guy in the slot who's crafty, who's a veteran, who knows what he's doing. I think dealing with a team that's desperate and adjusting and throwing on every down. I think some of those things can be good for the Titans. And I think it will make them go back to the drawing board this week as they look at exactly what happened. Specific routes, specific personnel, areas of the field that they struggled in. All that's fair game now. And it's fair game now. And yes, you won the football game. But guys, this isn't good enough. You do that next week, we might get beat. And I think that helps you get your defenders' attention. And again, after the way they've played, they've been great. They've been great, and they have been on point week in and week out. And that's a huge reason, the biggest reason probably, the Titans are 12-5 and the number 1 seed in the AFC. But that doesn't mean that it's not sometimes good to have a little bit of a wake-up call. And the Titans, I think, got that in the second half Sunday without losing. and you look around to all the other Week 18 observations and results, how many teams were in a position to do something special that didn't play well? A lot. Colts cost themselves a playoff berth by losing to the Jaguars on Clown Day in Jacksonville. Ravens lost again against the Steelers. Bengals lost. They weren't trying to do anything, but they're a division champ. They lose the final game. Packers lose the final game. Patriots were in the running for a division title. They lose the final game. There were a lot of teams that didn't finish the regular season well Sunday. Many against teams that weren't in the playoffs. The Titans didn't play their best, but as they've done so many times this year, they found a way to win. And now they're the number 1 seed. They've got that bye, and they've got plenty of teaching to do on tape that will get their attention this week from what they did on Sunday. Maybe the best case scenario for Mike Vrabel, because he loves to make corrections and he loves to teach. And boy, do they have the opportunity to teach this week off of that film. So that's where the Titans are. And number 1 seed in the AFC after going 12-5. And here was our instant reaction after the game on Sunday night with former Titan great Keith Bullock and Jonathan Hutton of Outkick. Woo, okay, take a deep breath after that one. The Titans get it done on a day when we saw a lot of wacky stuff around the NFL. Keith, do you have any concern by what you saw from the Titans in the second half, or is this just one of those where you take it, you move on, you get rested, and you get ready to play as the number 1 seed?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. There's no concern for me about this Titan team. They did what they needed to do the first half. They got up 21-0. Not many corrections to make on defense when you're only giving up 50 yards. Houston did a great job of making corrections, but what I loved what the Titans did, Ryan Tannehill put it on his back and answered the call when the when the Texans made it a close game and came home with the win.
Titans get it done. And Hutton, we've talked about how important the number 1 seed could be all week long. And the difference between the 1, the 2, maybe even the 3 seed was on the line there in the fourth quarter. How vital was it for this team's playoff chances to pull that game out the way they did and get the number 1 seed?
They've, in effect, just won a playoff game today because they've now advanced to the divisional round of the postseason, and then they're a win away from hosting the AFC Championship game right here in Nashville. And by winning, they finished the regular season by accomplishing every possible goal they can accomplish through 18 weeks. The bye week, Steve, is massive for Tennessee because they can now watch and rest, and when they return, they'll have Henry back, and they'll be as healthy as a roster as we've seen this team have since September.
Yeah, only 2 teams in the entire NFL get buys. They go to the Titans and the Packers. The Titans finished the regular season 12-5. Their most wins since Keith's 2008 team won 13. Great accomplishment for the Titans. It's something that you haven't seen in a long time. Back-to-back division titles for the first time since the beginning of the franchise. You go all the way back to the early 60s to see this team do something like that, and a position to maybe do something even more special in the postseason. They've, of course, never won a Super Bowl, only been to the game 1 time 20 years ago, 21 years ago. So a chance to try to get back and make things different this time around. Try to hoist that Lombardi trophy as NFL champions. We'll take a break. When we come back, more of your phone calls. 737-7767 plus post-game report from Sunday, breakdowns and much more. Stay tuned. This is SportsLine on News Channel 5+.